Well, they haven't confirmed that. They haven't confirmed that yet. They haven't confirmed that yet.
You guys brought up the guy from the Giants. It slips my mind real quick.
Tom Coughlin.
Coughlin, how old is he?
69.
How shiny are those rings?
All of his assistants stayed in New York.
Dump button.
Bringing him in here and keeping the assistants that you have.
I've always wanted to hit the dump button.
No, it's a good point, Ed. And what, Jeremy, what were you going to say? You want to say something?
I think Eddie has a valid point. And I think Brendan and I talked about this a little bit. If you fire Caldwell and you hire somebody from the outside, how many coaches coming from the outside keep the coordinators that are there? Now, sure, the Lions are the Lions, so they could say, "Oh, we're keeping our guys," kind of thing. But at the same time, I feel like if they hired a new coach, that neither Austin or Cooter would be there.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Coughlin didn't. Yeah, thanks, Eddie. Tom Coughlin didn't have a staff. That's why he didn't want to go to Philly. I think if he would have came here, there would have been an agreement, like Terrell Austin, and I think he could work with those two. I mean, but like I said, it hasn't been confirmed that Austin and Cooter are staying because there's reports out there that Cooter is really close to signing with Adam Gase in Miami. They're good friends. So, but does he want Tannehill or does he want Stafford?
He wants Stafford. Come on.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
I mean, in terms of even attainability, Miami is still...
Good job on the phone there, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Miami is... I think it would be an attractive job down the line. But I still think they're kind of a train wreck. I still think there's a lot of dysfunction with the Dolphins right now. I mean,
the whole organization.
Yeah, I mean, here we are comparing the Lions and Dolphins. We're both laughing kind of about it because, both organizations. But, I think that if there's rumors about Jim Bob Cooter going to Miami, it's because maybe the association. Because there's always that, and understand from a broadcasting and a journalistic point of view, the sources. It's always like that.
Right.
It brings up a little more hype to it. I mean, and maybe that he's using that for more of a cachet opportunity.
Possibly. I mean, one thing that I just thought about, and I guess I'll bring up, Jim Caldwell is a Super Bowl champion offensive coordinator. Yes, he hasn't won it as a head coach, but he has as an offensive coordinator. And he did a lot of good things with Joe Flacco, a quarterback that people thought was an average to below average quarterback that may not be a mainstay as a franchise guy, and he turned him into the Baltimore Ravens franchise quarterback, led them to a Super Bowl with that offense.
Well, he got the job week 13. They demoted the guy from Michigan. I don't know. Jim Caldwell was given that job OC about week 13.
Okay, and he coached them through the playoffs and in the Super Bowl.
Dude, that was John Harbaugh. Come on, John Harbaugh coached them up. Those guys are quarterback gurus. John Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh, they're quarterback gurus, man.
They are, but that's the offensive coordinator, I would think, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know, man. Jim Caldwell can get you to the dance, but once the music comes out, he can't dance, man. It's as simple as that, man. You take Peyton Manning out of Indianapolis, they ain't going nowhere. They ain't going nowhere.
It doesn't matter who was coaching that team. Until you had Andrew Luck in place and some future pieces, I don't care who's coaching it, they're going nowhere.
Yeah, but he didn't coach Andrew Luck, though. He was gone before Andrew Luck came along.
That's true. No, and I'm just saying, whoever had that team when Peyton was hurt, I don't care who has it, they were not going to win.
Yeah, but he went 14-0, and when they went 14-0, he decided to sit the players. And I believe they lost a game or two, and then he made a mental error in the playoffs against the Jets. Didn't call a timeout. He blew that game, and then when they got to the Super Bowl, he blew that game. He didn't win. I'm tired of guys that get to the Super Bowl. I need a guy that knows how to win a Super Bowl. They brought in Bob Quinn, right?
Yep.
He knows how to win Super Bowls. He's been there 6 of them, right? He won 4 of them. He was there for all of them. Okay. Now Bob Quinn is telling me that he doesn't want to hire a guy that's won a Super Bowl. He wants to keep a guy that basically won 1-7 the first 8 games, and his players checked out. They all checked out on him. Where was Nada at the beginning of the year? Haloti Nada.
Well, he was hurt too.
He was hurt, but he didn't play. He didn't play well to the end.
I'm counting Jim Bob Cooter and Terrell Austin Super Bowl rings right now. Neither of them have Super Bowl.
You're wrong. Terrell Austin does have a ring because he was in Baltimore with Jim Caldwell. He was a defensive back coach.
Okay, so then they cancel out. Caldwell's a ring. Terrell Austin has a ring.
But what I'm saying is, if Bob Quinn, if you're brought in to change the culture of this Detroit Lions winning or to get them to win, Why don't you bring your own guy from year one?
Because I think Pete made a very good point. If that makes Calvin happy, Bob Quinn, even though he went on and said in his press conference, I'm not going to bother him right now. I know the first couple of weeks after the season is not the time to, be pushing a player. He did everything he could to make Calvin Johnson happy. He wants Calvin to play back in Detroit because that's huge.
So people dog Stafford because they say they do everything they can to take care of Stafford. They give him weapons and stuff like that. Now they're going to do whatever they can. You think Bob Quinn's going to keep Calvin Johnson at $24 million a year? That's not the New England way. That's not the new. There's no way Calvin Johnson's staying at $24 million a year.
But they might restructure his deal, but I think Calvin would be willing to restructure his deal.
When they asked him at the end of the year, are you willing to restructure your deal to stay? He goes, I have no comment on that.
Okay.
Why didn't he say I want to stay in Detroit? I'll do whatever it takes to stay in Detroit. He didn't say that.
He has said he wants to win in Detroit, and I'm sure he wanted to see what happened with the head coaching situation.
Because that's the right thing to say.
He wanted to see what happened with the head coaching situation.
Well, listen, if these guys rally around Jim Caldwell because they like him, it's all because he doesn't let them wear pads, he doesn't let them practice, he gives them days off. If that's what you want in a football team, you're never going to win here. Never. It's just not going to happen. Bill Belichick would never allow that. If Bill Belichick went to London and got his ass reamed by Kansas City, those guys would be in pads Sunday night. Not even Monday morning, they'd be in pads Sunday night. They would. It's the truth.
Question for all of you, I guess. Who are we contributing the finish to? Although, yes, they played bad teams. They certainly lost to the Rams, let's face it. They shouldn't have lost to the Rams.
The LA Rams.
Yeah, there you go.
18 points the first 2 weeks is Jim Bob Cooter's the coordinator.
That's true.
So do we credit it all to Cooter? Do we credit some to Caldwell? Do we credit some to the players? I don't have a
Sheldon White?
I will be grinding.
What happened to Sheldon White?
He's going to be assistant director.
I'll
okay.
answer Jeremy's question because I think it's an interesting question. You know who honestly won those weeks, even though he had a rough first week, I believe, at New Orleans, was Jim Bob Cooter. Jim Bob Cooter makes Matt Stafford's... He provides a better game plan for Matt Stafford to handle that's more Georgia-like, if you will. I mean, I'm not calling it a college game plan, but there's more of this sort of... I don't want to call it the run and shoots, but it's pretty much close to the run and shoot aside from like long deep passes. I mean, that's one thing that they're lacking, but that's not one thing that they're going to get under Jim Bob Cooter. He's going to dink and dunk his way down the field if he can and possibly put up one or two big plays, but again, that's where you need a guy like Calvin Johnson. And Bob Quinn's no idiot. Like you said, Freddie, he's won, Super Bowls, so he wants to keep Calvin here, and that's what he's trying to do.
I think
not at $24 million.
We brought it up earlier. If Calvin does leave, how do they respond?
But what have they won with Calvin Johnson? That's what that cracks me up. You always hear stuff about Stafford. What have they won with Calvin?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
What if they won with any of the line?
Exactly. So why now cater to the 30-year-old wide receiver that's
Injury prone.
Listen, he's not a first. If he retires today, he's not a first ballot Hall of Fame.
Whoa.
He's got 765 catches. You got 6 guys that got over 1,000 yards and not even in the Hall of Fame yet.
Michael Irvin, he has had better numbers than Michael Irvin. The only reason why Michael Irvin's in the Hall of Fame is because of the Super Bowl.
Well, first of all, I say he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Okay.
He's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. So why? He's 30 years old. He makes $24 million. Why cater to him? I don't get it.
Because he's got more talent on that field than most of the other players combined.
But you got Golden Tate. You got Ebron for his 3rd year. You draft a receiver.
Don't tell me you got Ebron.
No, but wait a second. If you're going to say Matthew Stafford's been there 7 years, then Ebron will be his 3rd year. He should be making that jump as well too.
The offense is not designed around a tight end, and it should not be designed around a tight end. The Lions made a bad draft pick with Eric Ebron, and that's obviously showing face. You have to build around Matt Stafford in this kind of offense with good wide receivers, and the best wide receiver out there right now on the market, if you will, is Calvin Johnson.
Well, you keep him out. He better be making $11 million a year instead of 24 against the cap.
There's a better chance I catch the football in my mouth than Eric Ebron consistently catches passes.
Oh no, hey, dude, I hear you.
Yeah, it's bad.
But let's not forget the Calvin drop against Tampa Bay at the 1 yard line.
Let's go.
A couple years ago.
Okay, fine, but let's
Seattle
all the
gets
other great
Seattle
catches
gets.
he's had.
But they didn't bring us nothing.
Because it's not on Calvin.
Okay, but it's not on Stafford either. That's the thing.
I never said it was.
I'm not arguing with you.
I know.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just making the argument. Why keep Calvin? Why keep him at that number?
Because
give me a middle linebacker and give me a safety instead of Calvin Johnson and get your wide receiver in the second, third round. The last time we took a safety, listen, last time we took a left tackle in the top 10 in the first round was Lomas Brown. Last time we took a safety in the top 10 was Benny Blades, and they were both in 1985-86. Those are playmakers as well. I'm tired of Calvin. Yes.
888-353.
Tired of Calvin.
If you want to send a Serenity now to Freddie so you can calm him down, by all means, that's fine. But I'd like to.
Sorry, I'm just. We haven't won with Calvin. So if you're going to make the argument we don't win with Stafford, we don't win with Sue, you got to make the argument we don't win with Calvin. Those are facts.
That rant, by the way, was brought to you by the Brent Law Firm. You want to call them and get 30% off your taxes? Go to our website sponsors page and click on the link. The Brent Law Group, they'll help you out. So Freddie's rant's been brought to you by the Brent Law Group. So thanks to my post over at the
You
Brent
might
Law
need a
Group
lawyer after that
for
one.
that. So
Calvin might sue me.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
that segues into our next conversation, which is the tale of two young teams, the Wings and the Pistons.
By the way, real quick, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Say hi to Laura Bagley.
Hi, Laura Bagley. Greetings and
Hello, Laura.
thank you. Laura last week was in the Cave Radio, so thank you, Laura, again for coming by. It was a good show. Tale of two teams here with the Wings and the Pistons. Both teams struggling in the sense to finish things in the second half of their each respective games. There's difference though. The Wings resilient coming back, and then the Pistons getting screwed over again by Memphis. But
You're going to a good game tonight.
yeah, that's gonna be that's what we're gonna talk about that game. Bro, I want to talk
They're
about
going
the
to win.
Wings
They're going to win tonight.
getting 10 points out of a possible 12 on this current road trip. They beat a really good Coyotes team. And, of course, people are going to sit there and say, well, Jimmy Howard started the game in the loss against the Kings. But say what you will, but, I mean, Mrazek needed a break. Mrazek, though...
That was a back-to-back, too.
Yeah. And on the West Coast, you kind of needed another goalie to start like that. But, again, Nyquist could break out a slow had a goal against the Phoenix the other night. That sweet pass by Larkin in overtime. And Mrazek, again, getting a job done. And, you guys talked about MVPs last week.
Yep.
With Andy LaFata, who, Andy did a really good job last week as well. But, I'll start with Jeremy over here with the Wings. They're coming into the All-Star break. They got one All-Star. Of course, the new weird format. They win $1 million, a 3-on-3 format, what have you. It's no reflection on what this team has done, but they got on the hard part of the schedule where people thought that, they were coming into December kind of struggling, or coming into January kind of struggling a little bit. Go on the road trip, and I think they turned some heads on this road trip. What do you say, Jeremy?
Absolutely. I think they show what everyone thought they would show on that road trip throughout the first part of the regular season. I think the struggles early on were characteristic of all the young guys that you had. And I think it's good for them to experience that adversity. You're not going to win every game in the Stanley Cup playoff. You're going to go to 7 games sometimes. You're going to go to 6 games. So in the end, I think that was good for them. And I think overall this team has a great mix of veterans and young players, and I think that'll pay off going forward.
And Brandon, what do you think? I mean, what's your thoughts about the that past road trip?
I think it's huge. I think being able to go out and build that up now can give them some momentum in the right direction, can revitalize the fan base as well, revitalize that young core, and show them that they can do this. Obviously, they went through some ups and downs at the start of the year, but to go out, get 10 out of 12 points, win 5 out of 6 games, some crazy wins at the end too, and to stay with it through all 3 periods is huge for those young guys. It gives them some confidence, it gives them a boost, and that's exactly what they need if they want to be successful.
How about you, Pete? I mean, you've been watching a lot of Wings hockey. I know you've been seeing you on social media every night posting about it. So, what are your thoughts about that road trip?
Well, I love the Red Wings, and I've loved them all my life, and I grew up in the time of the late 70s, Ron Duguay back in the early 80s. I mean, the Dead Wings, all that sort of stuff. Oh, yeah,
that's
man.
names I've heard in a long time.
Absolutely. So it's nice to be part of a
Johnny
going for
Ogrodnik.
25 years of playoffs
Nice.
in a row, which the Wings are going for. But one thing I see about the Wings is that the Mike Babcock blessing. You know how we always usually say like there's like a curse of somebody? I call it the Mike Babcock blessing, that no free agents wanted to come here. It forced the Wings to build the farm system. It forced the Wings to have players play with each other for 2 years, 3 years before they made it to the NHL. And then these guys are playing with each other again. Then they have now their former head coach from the Grand Rapids Griffins, Jeff Blashill, is now their head coach at the NFL, at the NHL. My whole point is the seamless